G'day everyone, I'm Callum. Today on Connected, we're going to quit messing around. It is time to do some fabrication.
Okay, so here's all the laser cutting, which is fresh back from, well, here's all the Mdf templates that are back from laser cutting. And they don't all necessarily make a whole lot of sense here at the moment, but they do on CAD on the computer. So this is for the main sub boxes. But we've also got a pile of them here for the boot lid. And before I get started, let's just take the time to acknowledge a perfectly clean, tidy fabrication room. It doesn't happen that often. Had a big clean up in here so that we're ready to go. Clear bench tops, no dust, no mess, ready to go. Isn't that lovely? Absolutely lovely, along with a bunch of money router bits. Holy moly! Oh, I love router bits. Love them so much.
It's worth me taking a moment to explain exactly how I'm going to build these enclosures. You see, most subwoofer boxes are, well, boxes. Mdf is flat. It generally has straight edges, and most boxes are the same. They're normally rectangles, they're normally cubes, they have flat sides, they have 6 panels, and sometimes they might have an angled side to fit up behind a seat or something like that. You've probably noticed from my design that there is barely a straight line in there, and so it calls for a different sort of technique to use Mdf to construct a shape like that. And it's known as stack fabrication. You might have seen this technique used before because it's a great way to get heaps of depth and dimension out of a boot install, for example. In fact, it's a great technique to use anytime you want to create more shape, depth, and dimension than you can with one flat layer of Mdf. Instead of a box with 6 flat sides and 6 panels of Mdf, I'm going to use that template to cut a cross section of the box out of a single layer of Mdf. And then attach that to another layer and cut that as well. With each layer that I cut, the box gets 16 millimeters taller, because that's the thickness of Mdf I'm using, and it gains that corresponding increase in box volume as well. So it is time to stock up on sheets of Mdf and get on with it.
So part G here, this is our main stack. And we're going to be making a lot of layers of this, both fully and the forward half of it, and we're going to get started on that today. So first of all, we're going to take our sheets of Mdf and we're going to rough cut them so that we're just handling a rectangular piece of timber about this size, and then we can start cutting them out. I thought that it's a little bit cumbersome handling a full-size Mdf sheet, so we're going to cut them down to panels so that we can start copying them. That's our first step.
Alright, I'm rough cutting a handful of pieces here to suit the main stack, which runs the full length of the design from front to back. So they're the largest pieces, but there's also not that many of them to cut. I've been using a stopper on the saw frame so that each piece ends up the same size, so we get as many layers as possible out of each sheet of Mdf. Here I'm cutting different shaped pieces. They're going to be cut in half again to make the front half of the stack, where the subwoofer goes. It's substantially taller than the rear section, where the amplifier goes, and we need extra layers so that we have enough height to end up with the shape we need. So there's a lot of copying work here. One of the comments that seems to pop up with stack fabrication is that it takes so many sheets of Mdf to make. You know, it wastes so much Mdf because you're cutting shapes out of the Mdf instead of just using the flat panel. Well, yeah, it does. I mean, in this case, I can't just run down to Bunnings and get a custom designed Toyota 86 boot installation off the shelf. Look, making stuff tends to take stuff. As it tends to go, cooler stuff tends to take more stuff to make. And the other thing is that when it comes to the cost, the price of MDF doesn't really even rate in this build overall. Yeah. Okay, we've got heaps of panels here ready for cutting, and at this stage it's just a repetitive process. The template gets stuck to the first panel with template tape, and when that's cut with the router table, we have our first layer. Then I just go ahead, glue it to the next panel with CA glue, hit it with some activator, and cut the next one right out. I never want these pieces coming apart, so this is one of the few parts of the build where the simple approach is the best. That half-inch spiral cutter goes through 16mm MDF like you wouldn't believe, right up to the moment that the router spindle motor died. Yeah, man, that spindle served us well for 6 years, but I had to find a new one and get it installed in a hurry because building these layers is really just the beginning of the work for this poor router. Now, along with the main layers, I'm also putting together loading chambers which make up the base of each subwoofer box. This is the first part of the design which doesn't work out quite as well as it did on the computer. The clearance against the chassis rail on the outside is way out of whack. So, with a bit of modification to the template, I have as much clearance as the design allows me around the back of the woofer, and that should work a lot better. Well, it works better, but that rear seat area is still really curvy, and there's a lot of shaping that has to be done to get these pieces sitting where they need to be. The roundover bits on the router table help a lot, but some hand shaping gets some of the tricky areas to fit best. I mean, 40 grit flat discs on an angle grinder work unexpectedly well for this. It's really just a matter of going back and forth to the car, checking and finagling until both sides are sitting where the design needs them to be. It's just a repetitive process, really. Well, we have made a lot of sawdust at this point, about 80 litres in our dust extraction system, and a heap more on the floor.
All right. We have really got some sawdust going on.
And we've got a lot of offcuts as well, and they're going to be put to use making speaker spaces and mounts and small pieces in our shop as time goes on, so there's nothing to worry about there. Now, stacking layers like this endlessly means we're going to end up with a subwoofer box eventually, but they're not going to end up looking like my design without a little more work. You see, these ideas have been floating around in my head for way too long, and I've come up with some excellent ways to overcomplicate it. And I'm really hoping that in the long run, this is going to work out to be a fantastic result. But some of these things I haven't tried before. Some of these things, it's the first time, and for some of them, the whole build is hinging on some new techniques. So it's kind of exciting. So if you want to see this man's descent into MDF madness combined with some top-notch fabrication tricks, tune in next time on the next episode of Connected.